I feel I should follow up on what I said last night in the previous video where I talked about God helping those who help themselves. I was thinking in particular towards the believers. Many of them love to talk the thoughts and they will offer thoughts and prayers, but you ask them for practical help and they don't hear you. And what came to mind was the parable of the rich young ruler in the Bible. They should all know it. And I've always said, as someone who doesn't love money and someone who is very free and easy with my money, and I may drop in a couple of examples of how I've gone out of my way to help people financially in the past and how it was received by others looking on. But I'll come back to that shortly. I'm just going to read a little bit with regards to the rich young ruler who, in my opinion, trusted in his own righteousness. So it's like he wanted to say to Jesus, well, look, I'm doing all of these things. What more do I need to do? And it was the one thing that he wasn't doing. That's the thing that Jesus picked out. So, for example, if we could do 99 things perfectly, but we're missing out one thing, that would be, it would, like with me, I'm very generous. So it could be something else, like I don't really have time for weaklings. And when I say weaklings, I mean people who choose to have victim mentality and that, that type. Perhaps instead of being asked to surrender all my riches, perhaps in my case, Jesus might have said to me, you don't have compassion for your fellow man or something like that. And I would go away sorrowing, as the young man went away sorrowing, I can't say the word, sorrowing at the thought of giving away his riches to the poor. So I am very aware of my strengths and my weaknesses, and one of the things that I view as strengths, other people view them as weaknesses. So for Renda, I'm super assertive, and people who would want to get the better of me would view that as a weakness. If only you weren't so aggressive, they say. But I suppose it's for us to know ourselves and to know our standing with God, if you like, rather than for us to have people try to put things in our minds to try and say, well, on my part, people would say to me, oh, you'd be such a better person if. But being a better person means that I make myself weak enough so they can trample all over me. So all of that aside, like I said, I'll try and maybe come back and give some examples of what I've done, because I'm not someone who is money hungry. Right, so how long is it? Actually, it's not that long. I'll read all of it. So it says, now behold, one came to him being Jesus. Good teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? So he said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good but one, that is God. But if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments. He said to him, which ones? Jesus said, you shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Honor your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The young man said to him, all these things I have kept from my youth. What do I still lack? He's supposed to know what he lacks. He's not supposed to ask someone else. Jesus said to him, if you want to be perfect, go sell what you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. And it is at this point that I'm going to jump in and I'm going to give you two examples actually of times when I've been, if you like, broke. I didn't have much resources for myself, but in that moment there were people who need what I had more than I did. So the first example, I was in my early 20s, I remember, and I was working for a company. I think that was my second job. The second company I worked for when I started out making curtains. And the daughter of one of my work colleagues came in. It was in the days when you had the big 50p pieces and a gas meter, and you had to put the coins in the meter to get your gas if you had an a gas or electricity meter. And so her daughter came in. I remember that day it was raining. She came in and the meter had ran out, and her mother didn't have any change to give her the money to put in to it, to get the gas going again. But I had 50p, which was my bus fare. I wasn't poor. It was just that was my bus fare. I think that was all the money I had on me at that point for the day. So I gave the 50p to the daughter of this woman, and I walked home in the rain. Now, God in heaven sees all and witness all, but for me that was the greater emergency. I'm not going to die from walking in the rain. So that was one thing that I did. Another thing, all the money in the world that I had was contained in one of those little plastic coin bags you get from the bank. And it was, at the time I was teaching the exercise class at church. And like I said, that was all the money I had in the world. And there were, I don't charge for anything that I do apart from sewing. Everything else is for free. So we were going home. I was walking. I would walk to and fro because I didn't have money. And yeah, so I had this bag of money that I was walking around with, just some loose change. And there were a group of people who needed to get the bus, and one of them didn't have bus fare. So I went into my little, but nobody knew that I was that broke. So I went into my little bag and took out some of the coins and gave it to her so she could get the bus home. But as I said, nobody knew. But things like that I've done. I've done bigger things. I've paid for someone to travel from another continent, from North America to the UK, high season, on a same-day flight. I paid for someone I did a transfer for someone who was needed to pay a fine basically in that moment, and that was for like £1,000, but I was in a position where I could offer to help, and that was the help I needed. So rather than saying, oh brother, I wish I could help you, God bless you, I'll pray for you, I provided the help that the individual needed by transferring the money that was needed to pay the fine. So, these are things that I've done, but I've done a lot more with regards to providing material assistance. So in my position, like I said last night, where people are telling me, oh, you need to rest, you need to do this and that, nobody is coming forward and saying to me, how about cut back on your work and I'll help you financially. Just as an example, I'm not saying that anyone should, but I'm just saying in the same way that I can ask somebody, what do you need? And if they tell me what they need and I'm in a position to help them, I will help them. I'm not going to turn around and say, oh, I'd love to help you, but I can't. Meanwhile, I've got a whole chest of money over there, but I'm just too greedy and money conscious, and I don't want to share what I have. In the Bible, it talks about it being easier for a man to get through a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. It talks a lot about the connection between money and eternal salvation, but or the lack of, rather. But unfortunately, I don't know where we develop this habit from, to cleave to material things, and we'll rather step over someone to get what we want in life rather than to help someone up. That's not me. I'm not that kind of person, and I'm not trying to blow my trumpet or anything, But I think from my perspective, when you don't love material things, as I said, I don't wear jewelry, just these two little studs. I don't get the diamonds are a girl's best friend, all the fancy mink coats and all of that, the luxury. I don't get all of that. It just doesn't resonate with me. So when I've got people who are, busy making money and just not interested in other people, even in their own families. Like I said, the woman, the dementia patient in the bed next to my sister in the hospital, her daughter visits her, and she tells the story of her older sister and younger brother who don't have the time for their mother, who won't even call, and if they do call, they don't hang around to speak to her much. And she said, guaranteed, when she dies, that's when they're going to come forward for their inheritance. And unfortunately, this, I have contempt. Actually, I have more than contempt, beyond contempt for people who are greedy like that. But I just really, I suppose what I want to say is, talk is cheap. Talk is the cheapest thing. Anybody can talk. But I am not, from my current position, I've rested last night and I'm going to rest today. I'm still working on my skin. When I'm done, I'm going to work on my hair. And, I'm just going to have a really relaxed day until such a time as I go to see my sister. I've already had my mother on the phone asking me what time am I going, and you only have to go once, you don't have to go twice. So more talk. She's not in a position to do the visits, but talk is cheap. It's cheap, and so I don't know. All I can really say is I thank God that I don't love money. I thank God that I'm not materialistic, because I think after a fashion, it's, it prevents growth. When you're so tied up to material things and you love money, it just, I think it damages your character. You can't, well, I don't know if people actually try to connect to God, or if, I mean, there are people who call themselves Christians who go to these churches where the only one getting rich is the pastor. I couldn't imagine myself in any situation like that, because I guess they go to church because they hope one day they too can be rich. But if you, let me see, what am I trying to say here? All right, so basically, if you've got the same mindset as the pastor, you won't see that he is not a man of God, but more so a servant of Satan. If you would be able to see all the flaws in the character and in the message of the man, if you too didn't have your eyes fixed on the material things that he's promising you. So from henceforth, with this situation with my sister being in hospital, I think sometimes, even though that is her trial, her being unwell, at the same time, it is an opportunity for me to not so much to learn something, but to have the experience with other people. There are experiences that you won't have unless you're in a situation. So, for example, people who should be putting themselves out are not willing to do it because they're more concerned with making money, with just doing whatever it is that they do on a day-to-day basis. Whereas I'm still here trying to do what I need to do, but as well as fitting someone else in. Oops, I dropped my phone. Fitting someone else in who needs help and support. So I guess I don't really have much more to say than that. It's just, money truly is the root of all evil. And I don't think, from here on in, once my sister gets released from the hospital, I won't look at people in the same light that I did before, because You know, as I said, when somebody's in a situation in which they need support, it's all good and well saying, you know, asking how is she, this, that, and the other, but you're not making any other effort beyond that. And so I guess what I'm saying is, when the time comes and the people who should be if you like, bearing some of the weight, when they need help, well, most certainly they won't be getting it from me. And I guess I will end it there, and I shall continue working on my skin and on my hair while I've got the chance. So see you guys later.